Hey, my name is Neil Campbell. Currently, I'm a senior director of cybersecurity, and I have a lot of requests on how should I get into cybersecurity? How can I get started? What's a practical way? What certifications should I take? So I thought I'd take a few minutes and put down my ideas. Now, nothing in here is um, meant to be, this is absolutely what you should do or how you should do it. This is a reflection of my experience, my thoughts. Different people have different experiences and different thoughts on how to get started in the industry. And so uh, I hope someone finds this useful, but it is not meant to be an end all to how to get started. With that said, with that heavy caveat in there, uh, I will explain how I would recommend someone get started in the industry. The first is there are so many different governing bodies and organizations that do certifications, and I'm going to mention a few of them here, and I'm not highlighting any particular one to say it is the way to go. Uh, in fact, this is part of why I'm making this presentation is because the space is frankly cluttered with different organizations. So what you see here comes from the SANS Institute, Coolest Careers in Cyber. And you can just Google this, SANS Coolest Careers in Cyber, and you'll be able to see a lot more specificity or in detail each of these different functions. And my recommendation, if this is something you're considering, look at these, pick one, two, or three that may be of interest, and that way you can start narrowing down how would you go about, what training would be related to that, how would you go about finding a role. You can then start looking at specific roles, training, etc. Now, because this is put out by SANS, you'll see on this specific one, there are uh, training that associate with each role. And while I'm certain much of it is very good, that doesn't mean that the only path to become a pen tester is via the SANS Institute training. But I think it does, for someone that's just looking at getting involved in cyber, a starting point would be here are different roles and a basic description about what you would do in that functional group. And then you can take the next step of finding what kind of training do you actually want to pursue, be it from SANS or otherwise. Some of those certification bodies include the SANS Institute, ISACA, Microsoft, CompTIA, GIAC, and ISC squared or ISC2, depending on how you want to pronounce it. That's just a few. There are many, many more. And again, that's part of why my recommended approach would be to start with what role or roles do you think you might be interested in? And then you can start to approach what training would you want to get. Now, the presentation here is really designed for someone that just doesn't know and is really just exploring it. So with that said, uh, again, each of these bodies have a path, a certification pathway. And what I have displayed here is CompTIA's pathway, and it starts with A plus, then Network plus, then Security plus. And then from there, you can decide which path you want to take, um, right, to get more and more in depth. Each governing body will have a pathway, and you can mix and match between the governing bodies. I say governing bodies, but the certifying organizations, and you can pick and mix and match what you want to do to put together the ideal set of credentials or training. So um, let's start with the basics, though. Let's say you're currently an educator, and the environment in school systems are becoming incredibly difficult, and it's unfortunately far underpaid as well. So you want to pursue a career, you want to make a better living, and you want to not necessarily be in that formal education environment. So you're not inside of technology, or maybe you're inside of a space adjacent to technology. The starting point would be, in my opinion, to start with ITIL training and service management. And so ITIL is a basic framework for service management and services. As you can think of anything as a service in technology that's a functional service. So, it could be related to online banking, it could be related to education systems, but anything that is running and operating could be a service. So you want to learn about what is the life cycle of the service and how do we manage that service. And secondarily, you want to get into incident management. An incident is just an interruption to that service, right? And part of what we're going to do is try and prevent incidents and then identify incidents and then respond to incidents. Now, service management and incident management is the more generic starting point that cybersecurity is a specific subset of incidents or interruption to services or threats to services. So the same can be true. Services can be interrupted by changes that take place. Your local, training application has an update, or your phone takes an operating system update, and there's an issue with the update that goes to production, and now things aren't working as they should, or you can't log in as you expect, or whatever other interruption to that service. It's an incident. The same is true cyber threats that actually hit a service can turn into an incident. And cybersecurity is largely about the prevention of the interruption to services. And then if they are impacted, identification, containment, eradication, and return to normal service. So the starting point really for me, if you're not in technology, it would be to get into service management, ITIL training, um, and then go into go from there. Okay, so let's say you get through services and incident management training, and you're looking at all of these different potential careers or roles, and you're still not sure. The next step, and just the most kind of basic entry point from my perspective, again, there's many uh, certification bodies and ways that you can approach it, but from my perspective, I would start with CompTIA and go follow the path to Security Plus. It is a solid foundation. Um, so you can start with A plus, Network Plus, and then go to Security Plus. So if you're still unsure, you want to go into cyber, you're not sure which role, that would be a good foundational course to begin with. Now, let's say you've completed ITIL training, you understand incident management, you understand some basics about cybersecurity, um, and you're looking at then what is my next role? Let's say you've identified a role that you really want to pursue. So what comes next, right? And we're going to start with a Security Operations Center level 1 support. So this is really basic. I went to LinkedIn and searched on SOC level 1, and an actual number of roles came up, and we can see some of the requirements for that role. And let's see if we can mark here a degree or demonstrated skills in the cybersecurity. Certifications are a plus. Understanding of network, security testing, software, right? You've covered this with your training, whether you have the certifications or not, you've completed the training. Now, we get into a more technical, what's listed as a requirement, scripting skill. So Bash, Python, Ruby, Perl, PowerShell, all great things to get training on and something you can certainly pursue. But if you look here on this particular one, it says will be considered a plus, right? So strong analytical skills, willing to follow the SOC process. So in other words, if you're wanting to get started in cybersecurity and you've got some fundamental knowledge, you can get started and you can start to look at different roles. And right, I like this one a lot. A blue collar work ethic and willingness to wear many proverbial hats and have a flexibility outlook towards your work. I mean, this is not rocket surgery, and it's also not easy. So you can follow this exact same idea with any of the roles that are listed. Search for the role in LinkedIn and then see what's required for the role. See what's preferred. I would definitely recommend, if you're getting into it, to write resumes specific to these skill sets that align to the specific role that you want to pursue. Now, how much will it cost to get this training? And it can cost thousands of dollars to receive the certifications. It can be free, and it can be tens of dollars. The thousands of dollars are if you go through the certifying bodies and you take the formal training and you take boot camps. It can be thousands of dollars, and it can be very high value and money well spent as well. It can also be free. Sometimes you get what you pay for, but in the information age, what's amazing is I went out and found this CompTIA Security Plus full course. This is 5 hours of course, and it is on YouTube and is 100% free. I'm not attesting to the value of this particular training, but there are certainly many out there. And when I did my quick search on it, right, I found a lot that are 10-minute and 15-minute overviews, and then a few that are, here's the full course and all the information. That's just on YouTube. You can consume the same information buying a book, checking out a book at the local library, or certainly looking at other providers on YouTube. Udemy is a good one and that's for the tens of dollars. This is Jason Dion here, who I have taken a few of his courses, and if I could scroll down, you would see that this is like 20 some hours of training, practice tests, practice questions. I mean, it's pretty robust for, in this case, $15. So the other thing that I would say is, right, the certifications are very nice to have, and it's definitely something that I recommend you pursue, getting the actual certifications. But it is also okay to complete certification training and to take a practice test or do something free and place on your resume that you completed the CompTIA Security Plus training. If you complete the certification, it's important to list the actual certification. It's important to be transparent with potential employers that, hey, I took this course, I am competent in these skills, and I would like this role, and I would like to complete the certification process with your support within the first 90 days, year, whatever the case may be. So there's definitely a ton of training options out there, no matter what your budget. The biggest expense really is going to be time and energy. So how do I get a job? Um, this is from my perspective in hiring and filling roles, right? As I mentioned, I look for individuals that have completed certifications or completed certification training and can have a relatively solid conversation about their understanding, their knowledge That's more important to me, particularly for entry-level positions, than someone who has done that specific role for years. Um, my goal is to always bring people in, get them started when they have the knowledge, aptitude, and willingness, and then they continue on with their career. I like transferable skills like non-cyber incident management. And from my perspective, help desk experience is great. People are difficult in uh, help desk situations and providing that support, following scripts, troubleshooting, gaining a general technology understanding is really valuable. So that's just to say that there are many ways to transfer into cybersecurity. Uh, Now, in summary, right, what I would like to share is that I believe that we're going to see a ton of consolidation in the cybersecurity space, particularly on managed services over the next couple of years. So, for what it's worth, um, if you're joining a relatively young organization or you're trying to, and it's a managed service, just be aware that there's going to be market consolidation. It's a super hot market right now. Salaries are really through the roof, and the experience level required is relatively low compared to what it's been in the past. That's an opportunity for entry, but I would also say it's going to be a turbulent market over the next couple of years. Um, if I was, I'm here to make recommendations, so I recommend that you try and find an organization that believes in a follow the sun support model. So the work can be long hours and it can be very difficult. And if the expectation is not a follow the sun model and you're getting started, then chances are you're going to be on the graveyard shift, the third shift, or maybe best case, second shift. And my personal belief is that's not a way to live life unless it just happens to work with your individual situation. It is better to work for a company that has a follow the sun model. Training and development never stops. So, um, no matter where you are when you enter, I think it's really good to follow these same steps and looking at the roles and mapping out what are the certification path that you're going to take across certifying bodies to continue. And a final thought is that cybersecurity work is, I think, akin to police work in real life versus police work in movies. Uh, I think you have hours and hours of boredom and a few moments of excitement or terror. I personally love it, and I believe everyone that I work with currently and most of the people I've worked in the past have a real passion for it. But the work is what you actually do day to day, and it is not, kicking in doors and bursting through and making the arrests as much as it is, um, you know, sitting in the car and watching, or sitting in the sock and watching the board and following up on alerts that turn out to be false positives and trying to tune to reduce those false positives. So I hope this has been helpful to you. Feel free to reach out to me if you have questions or I can be of any support. And I wish you the best of luck if you continue down the path of pursuing a career in cybersecurity. Thanks.